Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name is Ben Jackson. I'll be your host, and as per usual, I am joined by Scott and Joris. Scott and Joris, how are you guys doing on this balmy September evening?
Really enjoying the weather, actually. Hello, guys. Hope everyone's well. And hang on. What's that? Is that the sound of a transfer window squeaking shut?
Not yet. That's like, well, the door might be closing a little bit now. Yeah, but all good here as well on my side. Beautiful weather here as well, which is a surprising thing to say.
Yeah, definitely getting a bonus kind of end of September weird weather, end of summer weird weather. And yes, as Scott mentions, the transfer window is still open for just a little bit longer in Belgium than some of the other countries. So there may be some more moves around the corner. A couple we might be able to talk about today because a couple have already gone through. So yeah, still plenty of movement in Belgium, but let's get on to the action on the pitch. Just a quick roundup of all the scores and then we'll dive into the games individually. On Friday evening, Leuven beat Kortrijk 3-0 at home to ease some pressure on Mark Blyce. Cercle Brugge kept up their good start to the season with a 2-1 win over Westerlo. Mechelen left it late to beat Eupen 1-0. Stanley Liège still can't find a win. They drew 1-1 at home to Molenbeek. Gent on Sunday beat Club Brugge 2-1. Union Saint-Gilloise drew 2-0 with Antwerp. Genk dramatically drew 1-1 with Anderlecht. And then Charleroi drew 1-1 with Sint-Truiden. So plenty of draws around the league this weekend. But the most convincing of all the wins was at the King Power, the Den Dreef Stadion in Leuven, where Leuven took on Kortrijk. First start for Youssef Maziz after signing from Metz. He was straight into the side and he got involved quite early on. His set piece, not early on, I guess, 40 minutes into the game, his set piece is headed home by Rika to make it 1-0. Second half, just a couple of minutes into that, Joel Shintiene got his first goal for Leuven. Really, really kind of combative run from him and a nice finish, and you could tell the rest of the squad were quite happy to see him score. 6 minutes later, Maziz got his first goal in Leuven colours when he made it 3-0. Really, really convincing win for Leuven. For Kortrijk, it's just kind of one step forward after that draw with Standard Liège, another step backwards after this result. Well and truly kind of comprehensively beaten in this one. They just really didn't look very good at all. They had a couple of shots, but just didn't really look potent enough. They've made a couple more signings this kind of today, I think it is. They've made a couple of signings, but it's still just not looking great for them at all. Whereas for Leuven, like I said, Mark Bryce was under some pressure. This definitely relieves some of that on him. They kind of really needed to win this game to kind of ease the fans a bit. And then Peter Willems is stepping down as CEO of the club as well. So it feels like that result, him stepping down, they're kind of just trying to like tell the fans, no, we're listening to you and like it's going to be okay. But yeah, I guess guys, sum it up, convincing for Leuven, poor once again from Kortrijk.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important, obviously, to get that first win because the pressure really has been building at Den Dreef. Supporter demonstrations, letters to the chairman asking for the CEO and the T1 to be sacked. And, as Ben was saying there, the CEO, Peter Willems, has gone today. Just a matter of days after that first win of the season. Pretty decent stuff from Leuven, actually. They'll be relieved for that. And I think from Mark Bryce's point of view, who's still in post, and I think will stay in post for a bit yet now, is probably hoping that with the window about to close, that things will now settle down a bit for them. They are looking a little bit better, obviously. They've got their new striker now. They will hope that he can start warming up. Youssef Maziz, brilliant pickup for them, already getting his first goal in his debut as well. Doesn't get much better than that. So things looking generally, certainly from the outside anyway, quite a bit rosier for Leuven at the moment. And for Kortrijk, it's the same old problems. And we were laughing before we started recording, didn't we? That it kind of feels like Kortrijk have been, panic signing somewhat, just trying to bring in anybody that seemed to be available or who fancied some game time. Difficult time for Ed still at the moment because he's having to work with, a number of new players, some of whom they're they're really stacking up in some positions where they arguably have too many players now. So from my point of view, I'm looking at it and starting to think, how does Ed still keep these players happy? And how does he knit them together into a side that maybe start to get some results for them? But the other way of looking at it is the only way is up.
Yes, and these signings will definitely need to help with that, because there just was a lack of quality in that squad generally as well. Another upside might be, okay, it's still a bit early to tell, but most likely Kadri is staying, which did not seem likely at the beginning of the summer, I believe. So that could give them a bit of a boost if some of these newcomers can add some quality nearing his level. They might still have a shot. It's really way too early to really write them off, of course. But yeah, it is really looking worrying for them. Yeah, and for Leuven, yeah, I also agree with everything that you guys said already. Most things have been said in the past weeks already as well. But I just wanted to point out that it's nice for both Xingtian and Mazis to get their first goals on their first starts. Xingtian, of course, already had a few short cameos as well in previous games at the back end of last season and beginning of this season. But this was his first start, and even though, of course, he's not actually a striker, it's good for him to get that first goal as well, and for Leuven to get that first win as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, we mentioned about those signings coming in. I think I just went through and counted. They've got about eight wingers. Dion Denev can obviously play as a kind of a fullback or a winger, so he gives them 3 fullbacks, and then they've got one, two, three, 4 centre backs. They need defenders. They've conceded so many goals this season already. They really do need some central defenders in there. But you're right. I think Kadri staying. It gives them that chance because they'll always be able to create something or score something, because he has already shown this season that he can score some goals out of nothing. He's creative as well. Like, he's just a really good quality player in a team that is young. So there's some young talent there that could develop. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of signings from past seasons that are still there that don't really seem to really fit into what they want to do or what they want to do going forward. So yeah, it's still a messy situation. They probably also still need another striker as well. Like, they've only got 2 with the injury to Ambrose, so there's still plenty of work to be done, but not a lot of time for them to do it. I think is the biggest problem for Kortrijk. Let's go to the Saturday games. I said Leuven's victory over Kortrijk was convincing, but I also think this next game, the Cercle Bruges victory over Westerlo, was actually quite convincing as well, even though the scoreline doesn't really reflect how dominant Cercle were. It took them until just into the added time in the first half to get the opening goal. Lovely cross from Hugo CK. No one marking Kevin Denke. He heads it. Takes a little bit one of those like bounces before the goalkeeper. So slightly unfortunate for Gillikins that it just kind of bounces and goes over his hands. That makes it 1-0. And then, yeah, the second half, Scott, you kind of mentioned it. I'm sure you'll talk about it. The kind of Westerlo just looked really not in it, not up for it. It was a really strange performance from them. They just weren't running as much as Cercle. Like, Cercle outrunning them, out kind of battling them, out doing everything. Like, the midfield, Van der Bruggen and Lopez were all over it. Gaboho was picking up the ball wherever he wanted. Sommers as well. Like, that central area in between Madsen, Vanino and the centre backs was just, it was so open for Cercle to do what they like to do. There's a reason they have kind of Gaboho and Sommers in those areas, and Westerlo just didn't really seem to know how to deal with it. But no one looked like they really wanted to deal with it. I think that was kind of a concerning thing. And you just look at the numbers for this, like, Cercle end the game with 21 shots to Westerlo's 7. They should have scored so many more goals than they did. Denke does finally get the second goal in the 69th minute. This came after Felix Lemarchal came off the bench, and I was quite impressed with what I saw from him. Again, he kind of slotted into those holes that were there, and he just took advantage of all the space that he had. Almost scored, but it was really well blocked by, I think it was Padici who blocked it, or Neustadt, one of the 2 centre-backs, was kind of throwing their body on the line. But he then sets up Denke to get Denke's second goal of the game. It could easily have been 4-5-0. I think Lopez hit the post. there was a couple cleared off the line by Ryan Reynolds. Brian Reynolds. It could have been him playing the way this game was going. Westerlo did actually then get one back in the 92nd minute. Matija Frigan with some nice feet actually, and finished it. Rallison probably should have done better with. I think he was just he probably just lost his concentration by then because he hadn't really had too much to do. Circle on the counter as well, just looking really, really good. I think this one, it looks closer than it actually was. Circle were really good. Westerlo still winless, now second bottom. They've just signed Ukrainian international. I can't get the name off the top of my head, but I'll quickly look it up before we get round to it. But a little bit more experience in the midfield with that young squad could be quite good, and they definitely need someone with a bit more defensive nous in there, so maybe he can come in and do a job. But another good performance from Circle, another performance from Westerlo.
Yeah, so easy for Circle. Westerlo were, I think the word's insipid, to be honest. They just kind of looked really kind of flat and disinterested to me, and watching it you were thinking, Circle's the last side you want to play if you've got low energy levels, which I think is what it was. They just, things weren't clicking for them at all, and they were never, I don't think they were ever going to get anything out of that game. That's what I felt like watching it. And with Circle, it felt like only a matter of time before they scored a couple. And yeah, I think they kind of took their foot off the pedal just a little bit, perhaps. Otherwise, this could have been a lot more than two, in truth. Westerlo just seem, I don't know, I think maybe it's losing some players, and they've spent some money, as we know, this summer, and I think their poor start has surprised most people. Interesting to hear the owners at Westerlo coming out this week to say that they have had a meeting with Jonas de Rook, and they've had a look at the poor start, and they're going to stick with Jonas because they've been working together for a while, and they have a good relationship, so they're giving him the benefit of the doubt at the moment. But we always know with these situations, when the owners come out publicly and back you, that the subtext is, okay, we'll stick with it just now, but we have one eye over your shoulder, which is always the case. I'm glad, by the way, just out of interest, that they're not panicking, because it'd be very easy to do that with their disappointing start. But they have enough about them to see them all right, I think. Circle cruising on, that's what I would say.
Yes, two teams in a completely different kind of form and feeling about the club at the moment, for sure. Sidorchuk is, by the way, the name that Ben has been looking for, the captain of Dynamo Kiev, which actually sounds like a pretty decent signing for with all due respect. Westerlo, of course, an experienced head as well in central midfield. If he still indeed has some kind of level, then he definitely should be improving the squad there, and that could do them the world of good as well if that would happen. But yeah, otherwise, that's 5 losses in a row now, and only 1 point after 6 games, and after games against already opponents like Eupen and Mechelen, you would think that before the start of the season that they should be battling out for the same spots. So that are painful dropped points already. But maybe no time to worry yet. Although 1 shot on target, and they scored their 1 goal in the final minutes. So that also says a lot about how the side has been going so far. Cercle Brugge, on the other hand, 3 wins in a row now. That's the first time since the beginning of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. January and February, I believe. And Denki adding 2 goals. I should make more jokes about how many difficulties he has with scoring sometimes, like I did last week. And he's already on 4 goals now, I believe, as well. So no, he's actually not doing so bad in the stop scoring list.
Yeah, he gave me some fantasy points this weekend, so I'm more than happy with Mr. Kevin Denke.
Yeah, I see why we're talking about Kevin Denke, guys. Actually, there's a Circle fan, I can't remember his name, who crops up on social media sometimes. I'll need to go and check this later. Who has this thing that he loves to do when Big Denks scores? Every time he tweets a picture, and it's a brilliant picture of Denks actually standing in on a beach somewhere, and he's got a white linen shirt open, and he's got his ripped chest out and his shorts, standing there with his sunglasses in his head, and he has the phrase "another one" with an exclamation mark on it, which is becoming one of the great unknown Belgian football memes, I think. So whoever's behind that, keep it up.
and also, still on the topic of Kevin Donke, that's how you should pronounce it. That's how he pronounced it himself a few weeks ago, I believe. So I'm sorry for having butchered that, and I fear we will be doing that as well. So I'm already sorry, Kevin, or Kevin, maybe even in that case as well. But yeah, sorry, Kevin Donke. See, I hear it's difficult to get it out of your head once it's stuck. But
I stand corrected.
And I feel like
he will be one of the many in this podcast, I fear.
Yeah, he's not the first, and he definitely won't be the last. Although I feel like if I try it, it's just going to sound like donkey, and I feel like that's probably more offensive than actually trying to pronounce it properly.
That's probably what he's trying to avoid with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe in this case it backfires.
Yeah, well, he's definitely not. He's not one of those. He's showing some quality this season, and stepping in where Raiders had to step out. So yeah, long may it continue. Another striker who's he's starting to find his feet in the Pro League. He's had some good play, like linking and that, but he needs to score goals in order to kind of really prove himself to the fans, and that's Leon Lauerbach in Mechelen. They hosted Eupen, and it took them a while to get the goal in this one. Eupen were defensively resolute, sticking that block of 5 at the back and then trying to hunt on the counter-attack. Played it out from the back quite nicely, I have to say. I think you can tell there's a side there that are actually drilling it and drilling it well. Kofeld's, you can tell they know where their angles are. There's another team that are doing this that I want to speak about later, but I think Eupen, you could kind of see they're getting used to that, and there were times they played it around Mechelen and out. And I think that's fine if you're playing, no offence to Mechelen, they're not like a Club Brugge that are really going to punish you if you do nick the ball back. So you can do it against Mechelen, but maybe don't do it against Club Brugge because they just got completely battered by that last time. But it looks pretty decent, but they couldn't really create too much going forward. Mechelen, on the other hand, they were creating a lot. Second half, Sandy Walsh comes off, Rafik Belhadi comes on. I think that was the right move from Steven Defour. I think he realised that they're going to have the majority of the ball. Why not have a more attacking fullback than Walsh? He didn't really need to be defending Van Genechten too much, going back the other way. Patrick Fluke on the bench. Scott was unhappy about this, but he did eventually come on in the 63rd minute for Mori Konate. So again, fair play. I think we have to say that to Defour. Like, all of his substitutions before the goal were attacking. Like, he really did try and get the win in this one. It was Beghali with the cross that led to the goal. His cross, Lauerbach's header. I think Slanina could have done a little bit better. I think the bounce of the ball kind of disrupted his technique in terms of the save, but I'll leave that to other people who are much more kind of educated when it comes to goalkeeping than me. But just by looking at the eye line, the first eye view, it looked like he could have done a little bit better. Mechelen hold on. Thanks to that goal, they get the win. They jump up into 5th place. Everything's looking a little bit better for Steven Defour. He's got his striker scoring, and I think, Scott, that's just kind of what Mechelen fans want to see, isn't it? Their striker putting the ball in the net. Yeah,
that's been one of the problems, actually, really, kind of finding a solution to that. But that's 3 wins in the bounce now for Steven Defour. So, happy days, signs of an improvement as well. Squad's starting to look a little bit better. Ben was talking about the substitutions, and I think Steven Defour now has some options, whereas before he didn't. It's just about keeping everybody fit. Obviously, Mori Konate is still working up to full fitness. You would imagine he will complete most games when he's fully fit, depending on tactically how they want to kind of set up. He's an important one. Patrick Fluke, obviously, I was not happy that he wasn't starting, because I thought on the basis of his performance on his debut, then he really should have been thrown right in there. But I do understand why he wasn't. Interestingly, he did make quite a big difference when he came on again. So again, that's maybe another one where they're just wanting to take it a little bit easy to allow him to settle. But things generally looking a lot more rosy from a Malinois perspective, and of course they brought in Elias Cabot's come back to the club today, which is very encouraging for them. And he had very warm words about, how much he was looking forward to kind of coming back. And I understand that was quite a difficult transfer to complete, one they've been looking for a number of weeks, but the finances were an issue, and ultimately it was the player who, I don't know the details, but my understanding is that Cabot has actually compromised on, what was originally an offer in order to kind of get this deal over the line. He was talking today about how much he's enjoying looking forward to playing at the Actor de Kazerne again, because when he left, of course, what is now the main stand effectively wasn't there in its current form at the time as well. So he said he's really looking forward to getting out there and getting stuck in front of that. And that's an important one for them, because he's always been a big Mechelen boy, as they say. Really enjoyed his time there. Spent a long time there, of course, before going to Italy. So he adds a bit more depth at the back as well. So yeah, 3 wins in the bounce, and it's funny how quickly things can change when some things start to go your way. Florian Kohfeldt was a little bit frustrated this week on the touchline. I was watching him kind of quite a lot, and I think he just felt they allowed this game to kind of get away from them. Didn't really make the best of their opportunities either. One of the most difficult places to go, of course, as we know, the Actor de Kazerne. Although Mechelen have been inconsistent for what feels like ages now, it still remains one of the hardest places to go, and they are one of those sides who remain generally very strong at home. But I don't think they have anything to fear. They've started much better, as we've been saying, than anyone expected, and their signings seem to be adding a little bit of quality to what they've got there, and they look like quite a well coached side, as Ben was saying at the moment. So they will be okay.
Yes, and these 3 wins in a row, that's the first time since October 2021, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So that's been a while, but and that was a really big streak. If I see that here as well, it was more than that. That was a streak of 7 games, I believe, that they did not lose, and 6 wins in that. But okay, I'm that diverting here. But yeah, on the other hand, they needed 22 shots to get over the line, to get that 1 goal over the line, which means they actually also barely got more expected goals in comparison, 0.5 extra, half a goal extra in those 22 shots against Eupen. That has less than half this amount of shots, which is 9, and had a reasonable XG out of that, at least a bit of rate there, I suppose. But nonetheless, Mechelen get the points deservedly in the end as well, although Eupen started really well in this game. But yeah, they had less chances, but they were quite good chances, but they still missed them, which is also not encouraging either, of course. But okay, on the other hand, not that much to worry about for them as of now. They're still in a good place, which goes for both sides, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think they'll both be reasonably happy with the start that they've made. One side that's really not happy with the start they made is Standard Liège. Fans were, pretty keen to let 777 know how they felt with their little banner before the match. Well, not little banner, it was big banner. They were even angrier 20 minutes in when Martin made it 1-0. He was proving a little bit of a handful. Ngoy brings him down just on the edge of the box. Javier Mercier, he may not be fully fit, but he can still put a ball in the box. It helps that no one's really marking Martin who's a giant anyway. He heads it in from close range to make it 1-0. Standard don't waste too much time getting back into it. About 5 minutes later, they themselves get a free kick on the left. Ball comes in, bobbles around a bit, hits Bacardi in the chest, falls to Kanga. Kanga bodies it in. Bacardi's been given the assist, which is ridiculous because the ball literally just hit him. He didn't know anything about it. And pretty much that's how this game finished. It finishes 1-1, but Molenbeek, my word, in the first half, they had their chances on the counter-attack, but the decision-making was so poor. There were so many times they had a 3-on-1 or 3-on-2, and the final ball just wasn't played correctly or was played behind someone or something like that. And yeah, I think Claudio Capacca must have been just tearing no hair out because obviously he doesn't have it, but if he did, he'd have torn it all out anyway, because they just wasted so many of these chances on the break that they really, really could have punished Standard. Standard did have some chances in the second half, but could not find any further breakthrough. Finishes 1-1. They at least have 3 points to their name, but they will come from draws. It's kind of not looking great, but they have made a couple of signings. Isaac Hayden from Newcastle has joined on loan. Musa Gineppo is back with them as well. I'm a bit of a Musa Gineppo fan. He was always in my fantasy football team when he was at Southampton for absolutely no reason. It made absolutely no sense to have him in there, but we had him in there anyway. Good to have him back. He will add a bit more kind of maybe some excitement to their style of play. It'd be interesting to see how he fits in. Same with Hayden, that slightly more defensive-minded midfielder. They're not like, I don't know if they're going to make a massive difference to the squad. Hayden maybe will, in terms of kind of just bringing some more quality to central areas. Gineppo, I mean, he is quite an exciting player to watch. It'll be interesting to see where he kind of fits into their formation and stuff like that. But yeah, I think in this one, Standard probably should be quite happy with the draw. Obviously not within their circumstances, but just because of the amount of chances Molenbeek had in that first half to really kill the game off.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting actually. You know, Ben was talking about the missed opportunities of Molenbeek's, and when I was watching this game, I was tearing my hair out at a few points. You know, where they had almost one-on-ones. There was a particular one where they were almost through, and just at the key moment, the pass that should have went out wide left to the left, can't remember who it was, he decided to take it, just terrible decision making to be able, it was so obvious the way it should have got, very frustrating to watch. I think Standard will take a point all day long from this game, I think, because of the situation they're in, but I do feel that Standard only got a point because of Molenbeek mistakes, really, rather than anything they created themselves, such as the situation they're in. But since this game, things are looking a little bit more rosier for Standard. Ben was saying Musa Gineppo is coming in. It looks to be confirmed this evening that Kamal Sowa is going to be coming in. That's not been confirmed yet by the club, certainly, but it looks very, very close now. So from an offensive point of view, they have some options that they didn't have a week ago, which kind of change things somewhat, particularly if they come good and they start to click for them. A little bit of chat today that Karl Ufkens might be switching or wanting to play a 4-3-3 of some kind, and this is the reasoning behind some of the personnel coming in. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Obviously, with the international break coming up, he's got a little chance to kind of ponder this and chat to some of these players and consider where they're going to pick up when they leave off after the international break. But yeah, Standard fans being as patient as they can be, but just politely reminding everybody of the reality going on in the background. It's a difficult one for them because there's now a lot of pressure on these players that have come in over the last 24 hours to make quite a significant difference kind of quickly, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can do that. Molenbeek did deserve more from this game, however, and I suppose if I was Claudio, then my message to that team would have been, you've got to take your chances, guys, because when you come to places like this, you don't get many, and actually because Standard are pretty poor at the moment, then that's as good a chance as they're going to get to go to a place like Skles and win, but they couldn't do it.
No, they couldn't indeed, and mainly because of wasting some promising counterattacks. Well, as you all guys already discussed as well, I think if one team could win, it was probably them. But yeah, I'm also wondering where this does play Standard, since Molenbeek lost big time to the two bigger clubs, you would say, in the league, and they did win against the other ones so far, and now this is the first draw, so that's an open question there. But some good signs in the end, I guess, though, for Molenbeek, of course, that they got that point here. Before the season, they would definitely have signed up for that. Also, Matchday got his first, got off the mark, so that's probably a good one as well, even though he was somehow able to hit a ball in with 3 defenders around him. So that's also a bit of a worrying sign for Standard at the same time. But yeah, like I said, they should have done a bit better with the counters as well. Some of them they just wasted them completely. For Standard, indeed some banners going on, and but on the other hand, it's still relatively quiet. I feel in the stands so far for the results that they are having, and the club that they are, which is maybe in itself a worrying sign that it's still reasonably calm, or the protests are still within limits, which is of course a good thing on the many levels, but not what you would expect. The series also keeps on going. That's now 13 games without a win. I will keep on saying this stat every week, I think, as long as it's going. It's just such a weird stat to have to mention. That's why. They're also still one of the 4 teams in the end that are still winless, which I find that's in the more general remark. A lot of teams actually after 6 games already, 5 or 6 games, that are still winless. That's I find that a very remarkable large number of teams. Van Heusen is not bringing as much as he should, and like the worst sides of his game are taking over instead of the qualities we all remember, at least from him. But regardless of how high you would rate him before, at the moment he's definitely not at the level that he used to be before. Maybe he just needs a bit of the more time as well. But and also another stat that keeps on going, which is also still a bit of a weird one, is the conceding 1 goal per game stat for Standard. So the 5th time out of 6 games that it's the first that they concede first, which already makes it difficult to actually win a game. That explains parts of that other stats there. Right away, of course, and they have the worst attack in the league by numbers, by goals scored at the moment as well. That's an additional one. Although Kanga also got his first goal of the season and got off the mark, so maybe that will help them in the longer term as well. But yeah, definitely a lot of work to do. They're adding a few players and a few in theory quality players, but let's see what they can still bring at the moment and how much time they will need. That of course has a few weeks to get them ready now as well.
Yeah, I think they need to create more chances as well. That was kind of plain to see during this game, and I mean, at least they somehow made a fair profit, you could say, on Aaron Donham. I was quite surprised by the amount that Leeds were willing to pay for him. I was like, have they? Well, I don't want to like rip him to pieces or anything like that. Like, I think he's a decent player, but I wouldn't say him as like Liga and quality. So I was quite surprised to see that. Although our good friend Simon Elassor is now starting for Metz. I feel like we're going to be updating people on Simon Elassor because I just can't get my head around what the guy we saw at Sarang now suddenly starting in French football. It's just wild for me. So he's starting for Metz, but I mean then Teddy Tuma is ripping that league apart. So maybe it is like maybe it's the worst league. Who knows indeed. So yeah, no, I think. Yes, that the situation Sander in is just a little bit weird. It's just a bit odd, and you're never too good to go down. But I think, you're right about all those sides that haven't won a game. It's just I can't quite get my head around if it's a good thing or not. Like, or if it's a really really bad look for the league. But I think it just reflects what we all thought when we came into the season, that some of these sides just were not ready for the start of the season, and those sides are probably the ones that are struggling at the moment. One side who definitely are ready, or have been ready for the start of the season, are Gent. They hosted Club Brugge in a pretty raucous atmosphere on Sunday afternoon. Bruges brought Boyata, came in for Jorni Spielers as the starter, and defensive they didn't look great. Onyedika lost the ball in midfield. It eventually comes to Kuipers on the left. His ball in should be cleared. It's kind of half cleared by Mekela and Boyata, but they just look at each other. Mignolet looks at them. Hong just takes the ball and puts it in the back of the net to make it 1-0 to Gent. Club Brugge then equalised just before half-time with Van Aken heading, really nice finish actually, heading across Nardi into the bottom corner and then giving it to the Gent fans behind the goal. He'd regret that, I think, 3 minutes after half time when Tissoudali found Hong again with still a little bit of work to do, but he smashed it into the bottom corner to make it 2-1 to Gent. Orban was on the bench, but he came on the 64th minute alongside Noah Fadiga. Tissoudali came off and Hong also had to come off as well. Fadiga picks up a yellow card. When was his first yellow card? I think it was in the 78th minute. He gets a yellow. 3 minutes later, he gets another yellow and gets himself sent off, heaping all the pressure on to Gent. Omri Gendelman comes on for Hjul Saga. Gift Orban, who's only been on the pitch for 20 minutes, is off. Kandus comes on. Although, to be fair to Orban, I don't know, you guys may have seen differently. I don't see him complain or anything. I think he understood the situation. And to be fair, when Hong scored the first goal, he was the first person to celebrate with him as well, despite being on the bench. So I don't know. We've had there's lots of mixed about his personality and stuff. But from what I see on the pitch, I haven't seen anything that suggests that he's like a really bad egg or anything. He obviously did want that move, but it looks like that's not happening now, which is really good news for Gent. They held on thanks to a couple of good saves from Nardi, a couple of good defensive blocks from the defence as well to win 2-1. They go top of the league. Big Hein absolutely loved this at the end, giving it the big one. He was happy. Dylan, not so happy. But yeah, no, a good game to watch. Frustrating for club, I guess, at the end of the day when that they couldn't kind of take advantage of the 10 men.
Yeah, it's always quite an enjoyable fixture to look forward to, this one in Belgian football, because, you know, a lot of the spice kind of precedes it. You know, I certainly kind of always look out for the dates of this one. Gent were really good, I have to say. I thought they were really up for this. So whatever was said or whatever music was played in the dressing room before kickoff certainly did the trick. I thought collectively they were excellent, particularly at the back. Actually, I felt they defended really well in this game. Watanabe, Tornariga, and who's it? Yeah, Nurio, really, really good. Really strong stuff, and even the midfield kind of, you know, dropping a little bit deeper when they needed to collectively as well, you know what I mean, just to kind of close those lines and make it difficult for Bruges. I was really impressed by them, and I think if they can play anything like this most weeks, they're going to be, you know, a hard side to beat. I think the fact that both Orban and Kuipers are still there and look like they're still going to be there when the window closes is potentially significant now, because it allows the club to say to them, look, okay, we don't know what's necessarily going to happen in January yet, but let's give this a really good go. Let's see what we can do this season, because I think there was a feeling that certainly one of them was going to go. I think Sam Barrow coming in as the new majority shareholder has changed the picture somewhat in terms of their transfer business and what they may have had to do. But, you know, there's some key players there that have really kind of been quite impressive, I think. You know, obviously young Archie Brown just come in. He's looking really good, actually. It looks like he's been there for a while. You know, Tornariga's looking, you know, pretty solid most of the time, I think. Hong had a great game, actually. Both his goals were really kind of fantastic finishes. The squad are performing consistently at the moment at quite a good level, to such an extent that, you know, we don't mention Tarek Tissoudali as much as we used to, and we all know what a brilliant player he is. You know, so Orban, Kuipers, and Tissoudali, Hong in there playing in the hole sometimes, you know, can play in a number of positions. Hein must be looking at this at the moment and to a certain extent licking his lips a little bit and thinking, okay, let's, as I was saying, let's give things a really good go here and see what we can do this season, because I said during the preview that I felt if they could keep the kind of the strongest players, if you like, offensively in this side and not lose any of them, then there was the potential for them to do something quite interesting. So we'll see if that kind of continues, because they're going to need to maintain that level of intensity and motivation most weeks, not just against one of their big Flemish rivals.
Yeah, a lot of spice in this game for sure, on and off the field. In the first half, I was even saying Nardi that was looking shaky, which I'm not taking back that in the first half he did, but in the second half he turned into a savior of Gent as well. especially towards the end. There were a few good saves needed, despite indeed Gent defending quite well overall, but still there were a few good chances for Club Brugge that he kept out. The main player that stood out from Hong, of course, with his 2 goals. They will miss him for sure as well. Now he's off to the Asian Games. He might not be back. If ideally for him, if he doesn't want to do his military service, not before the middle of October. So that's going to be a miss for them if that would be the case as well. The other player that stood out was Archie Brown for me. Well, more like a welcome to the league as well, I guess. And I did not know him too much before this game and did not see too much, but yes, he performed really well here, definitely. The other things that I had on Gent have already been mentioned. And for Club Brugge, yeah, my main worrying point for them is still like that defense, and it looks like they're actually not doing anything about it, not bringing any recruitments in, at least already not for the Conference League group stages. It's already too late. Even if they would still get someone, they can't put them on the list anymore for Europe until the winter window, of course, at least. But yeah, and that proved a bit in this game as well. And then of course there was indeed the banter from the fans against Van Aken first, then Van Aken shutting them up with scoring that goal and giving a bit much back. And then at the end of the game, the Hint DJ playing the song Arrivederci Hans as well. So like that topped it off. That's the kind of banter we need a bit more, I guess. It's still it's harmless, but it's fun, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely love that, and it's cool. You both mentioned Archie Brown there, and it's the thing I quite like about. Just like if you look at what like Archie Brown's kind of career is, like he's obviously comes through the Derby youth system and then goes to Switzerland and plays for Lucerne Sport, and I quite like it when it's not something that happens quite a lot when English players, especially young English players, go abroad to play. It's really, really rare. So it's cool to see here. He's gone there now. He's in Belgium. Like he's getting kind of a better footballing education all over the world, and not over the world, over Europe, I guess you could say. And yeah, he looks quite decent.
I think see on Archie Brown's talking about Archie Brown there, Ben. That point about young English players, kind of taking a leap overseas is really interesting. I would talk to a couple of agents that I know a little bit recently, and they've been emphasising to me recently that a lot of clubs now, not just in Belgium but across Europe, are looking at top talent in academies. I suppose somebody like Isaac Price, obviously, who's gone to Standard, is a good example of that. Players who are coming to the end of those contracts and don't have a route into a senior side in English football and know that. And I think smart agents clearly are saying, look, go and play at this reasonably big club in Belgium or in Switzerland, and play regular football and develop as a player and as a person. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I think that's it's the early days of that, but certainly in Belgium we're starting to see signs of that. And Belgium, I think, will almost certainly be one of the top destinations for a lot of these players now for reasons that we wholeheartedly agree with.
Yeah, I mean, look at Matthew Healy from Varans. Obviously not English. He's obviously Irish. Don't want to kind of claim him. I'm sure the Irish are sick of us English trying to do that. But yeah, he's obviously come from the Ipswich Youth Academy, was at Cork City, and then he's come over and he's playing really, really well down there. So yeah, I think Price, Mundell, there's a couple of these guys that are doing it. Cameron Humphreys was one of those that did it recently. Obviously, there used to be the United Antwerp link, but yeah, Humphreys did it at Zulte Waregem. Berahino came here to try and kind of revitalise his career. So yeah, this is just a pathway. There's definitely a pathway over here. And Archie Brown, yeah, he's definitely, I feel like he's kind of got an interesting career ahead of him. A side that would probably sign players like Archie Brown or people like that is definitely Union. They hosted Antwerp, looking for some revenge potentially. I don't know, after Antwerp won the title, instead of them to deny them their kind of Hollywood fairy tale historic ending. And it got off to the best possible start for Union. Terrible start for Antwerp. They just did not deal with an early cross into the box. Eventually, penalty is awarded to Union after, I can't remember who brought someone got brought down in the box. It was an obvious penalty. Like Butte ran into someone. I think it might have been Delat or Koulibaly, and then from the result, a penalty was won.
Koulibaly Ontero. That's
That was
the
the one.
players you want.
Yeah, I can remember. I can picture what happened. I just couldn't remember who was involved. But yeah, it was a nightmare start for Antwerp. Dennis Eckhart steps up. He makes no mistake from the spot to make it 1-0. Antwerp then pushing for an equaliser. Ball to the back post finds Balikwisha. Decent save from Maurice and a decent block from the defence, but it falls to Sam Vines, who I don't know who told him to shoot, why he thought he should shoot, but he did, and it was a ridiculously good strike into the top corner. Fantastic goal from Vines. Unfortunately, his game was over 6 minutes later as he had to limp off injured. Absolute crisis at left back for Antwerp at the moment, or they have signed Vindal from Ajax, so hopefully he'll slot in. And yeah, Joris, I'm sure you can give your take on the Vindal Avia signing, because I think you're pretty accurate on that one. Into the just before the second half, Antwerp then do take the lead. 43 minutes. Corner comes in, flicked onto the back stick where Kellenkamp is there to nod in to turn it around for Antwerp, and that's pretty much how it stays right until the 86th minute. Union have had about 24 shots at this point. Expected goals up at 3. They get a penalty in the 85th minute. Nielsen, who's come on because Eckhart has come off. Nielsen steps up, smashes it. Butte almost gets there, but it's hit with such power that it finds the back of the net. Van Bommel gets booked near the end. Everyone's kind of getting booked and cards flying around everywhere. But it finishes 2-2. Entertaining game. Not the result either side would have wanted, given that they kind of both had a foothold to take control of the game. But it was probably a fair result, I guess, on reflection, although Union will point to their chances and be like, if we'd made the most of these, we could definitely have won.
I thought it was very interesting listening to Alexander Blesson afterwards in his team talk on the pitch, which the cameras managed to pick up. Social media sharing a bit of it over the last couple of days, where he actually seemed, kind of quite relieved in the end to kind of get the point. As Ben was saying, they had plenty of opportunities actually to win this game. And kind of could have, but I think in the end there was almost a sense that part of this game got away from them a little bit, and actually getting a point out of it was a pretty decent result for them. In the end, that was more or less what he said to his players, and that his exact words were, "I'm proud that you managed to get a point out of this." In the end, I think there was a feeling that. Although there was some disappointment in the squad, I was looking at the faces of the players during the huddle while Blesson was talking to them, and some of the players, did look kind of quite down. But I think that says more about the morale and spirit in that camp at the moment, and that they're, they don't like not winning games, Union now. Regardless of who their coach is, so this is a side who are becoming serial winners and kind of getting used to that. So it's interesting seeing them kind of adjusting really more to the ebb and flow of big games like that. I find that kind of quite interesting, particularly now that this is largely a new side as well. There are so many new players in this Union team as well that are kind of gelling together. And yet again, I suppose we don't need to emphasise this, but this is, one of the best sides for recruitment in Belgium, if not the best. And they look to have kind of pulled off what we were all wondering whether they could do. And the players that come in do seem to be gelling. Some obviously literally just in the door a few days, so won't even have settled yet. But they have quality and depth in there now. And Alexander Blesson actually saying a few days ago as well that he's very happy with that, and to get it to this point ahead of group stage European football. I think probably Mark van Bommel will be happy with the point. Antwerp should be happy with that, because like a number of teams, they've got an incredible schedule of fixtures kind of coming up, and I think it's important that they enjoy themselves. And a hard-won point in a game like this against a side that they're going to see as kind of title challengers to their own crown at this stage of the season could yet turn out to be a little bit more important than we think. We'll just need to see.
Yep, Butte a bit with a rare mistake on that first penalty, of course, as well, and also still weird that Koulibaly actually did not get any red card for that, because he it was a goal mouth chance, but also the Boterberg, I believe it was the referee later on after the game has admitted that he should have given a red there, and that could have been very important throughout the whole game, of course, if that's really 90 minutes, more than 90 minutes even, that you would have to play with against a man, with a man down, respectively, or a man more. Yeah. But apart from that, Vines injuring himself with that brilliant goal, equalizer, first equalizer, no, the equalizer. Yeah, that was that's too bad for him, to be honest. Really, himself. It's scary, and that's yeah, that's that made this Randall transfer possible, I suppose you could say, or I'm not sure if it would otherwise have happened, but this made it even more needed that they got a left back, and they got Randall from Ajax, the club they sold Avila to, and in my mind that's going to be an upgrade. Although he was really good at AZ Alkmaar, but at Ajax it never really really never really came true. Which is already an understatement still, I think, from how not great he has been there. But if he can find anything near his former levels, then he definitely should be an upgrade in comparison to Avila. And for Union, then 2 penalties again. 6 out of their 10 goals so far have come from penalties. That's also how I believe 3 out of 5 of Eckert Ayensa's goals as well, if I'm not mistaken. Can't say anything to it too much, because I think if most of them at least were like very clear cut ones. The pressing on Antwerp in that first half actually was really impressive as well. So they really impressed me there. There was a bit of a drop off after a while, of course, but that's normal. But throughout the whole game, they could have won it as well. But a draw. I guess both teams can live with that at the moment, at this moment in time in the league as well, with a busy European schedule ahead, and already a few games in Europe. Just played behind the belt as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. While we've been talking, Kortrijk have signed a centre back. Big
Whoa! Stop the press.
34-year-old Craig Cathcart is joining. He's one of those ones that I just couldn't believe he was still playing for Watford. Like, do you know what I mean? He was one of those kept looking like, he's still playing. Not his first time in Belgium, though, guys. He did play 13 games for Antwerp back in the day when he was at Manchester United. I mean, he's an experienced player, played at a very high level, played internationally for Northern Ireland as well. I think it makes sense. He's a free agent. I think it's a decent signing for Kortrijk. An experienced head at the back will definitely do them good, I think. So, yeah.
He's coming back for the beer, guys. It's the beer.
I wonder if he was even old enough to drink back then. This is like 2000s when he was playing there. So yeah, welcome Craig Cathcart to the league. Good luck in Kortrijk. Joris, we're going to have to talk about this Genk-Anderlecht game. You're going to have to talk about it first, I think, over Scott. We'll give you the right to go first. I'll just quickly run through the ridiculousness that was this one. 8 minutes in, Christopher Fonsu bar. What I thought was a pretty decent kind of show of strength to push Leone off the ball. Referee calls it a foul. On reflection, his hand is a little bit high, so it probably could be given that. He picks up the ball to kind of protest with the referee. Vertonghen just grabs him round the neck, kind of like wrestles it, not wrestles him, kind of like tries to wrestle the ball off of him. Obviously, Bar doesn't like being grabbed around the neck, so those two have a little bit of words. Both of them get booked. I think it's a little bit unfair that Bar got booked for Vertonghen basically manhandling him. I thought that was even more unfair 6 minutes later when he gets sent off picking up his second yellow after, I think it was a foul on Thomas Delaney. So that just kind of killed the game. Whoa, I thought it was going to kill the game because I thought, at that point, Anderlecht are going to have all the ball and they're going to be fine. But Genk completely dominated this first half, even with 10 men. Galazzo in the midfield was just picking up the ball all the time. Like Anderlecht would clear, he'd pick it up and they'd start like kind of recycle the play and go again, but they just couldn't find the back of the net. In the 69th minute, I believe it is, 68, 69th, Francis Amuzu comes on for Kasper Dolberg. His basically first touch is to cut inside and smash the ball into the back of the net to make it 1-0 to Anderlecht. That's how it stays for the majority of the game. By this point, almost everyone has been booked. Pretty much almost everyone from Anderlecht has definitely been booked, but they survived without getting anyone sent off. I was certain this game was going to end up 10-10, but it did end up 1-1. I have to say myself, I think Genk had a ball into the box that came to the back post and someone just completely missed it in the 94th, 95th minute. And they always say you get one more chance. And I was like, that's Genk's one more chance. I'm going to switch over to watch St. Truden against Charleroi. Literally a second later, I get a notification on my phone to say that Genk have scored. Awful defending from
I'll teach you.
Exactly. Maybe, but I know Joris, you can thank me. Maybe it was a lucky charm. Daniel Munoz gets the ball all the way to the back post where Tolu knocks it in. Not to be forgotten that Tolu was on his way to joining Anderlecht apparently before he then ditched them to sign for Genk. So that would have really rubbed it in for Anderlecht. I know a couple of Anderlecht fans were just like, I can't believe we've lost this game with 10 men. Lots of people as well. I think the newspapers saying like, yeah, this kind of is what we thought Anderlecht were. They won all those games, but this was the big test and they kind of failed it in many of the kind of the Het Nieuwsblad, the Het Laatste News kind of eyes. But Joris, I know you've probably got some stuff to say about the ridiculousness that was this game, but you got a draw in the end, but flipping heck, it was a ridiculous one.
Yeah, that was a weird game. Result-wise, we can never say if the referee killed the game with that red card, but it definitely did kill the game in the quality of the game. And to be fair to him, he has been relatively consistent in handing out cards afterwards. On the other hand, he also, in some phases, I felt he was actually compensating a bit. That things could have gone a bit more Andre's way. That if that would not have happened, that would not have. They would not have gotten. They might have gotten something, or would not have gotten something against them. But it was a bit of a strange one for sure, and it really killed the game. I also feel like that's what I can't say now, of course, but like I feel like Genk would have won if they would have stayed with 11 against 11 as well. On the other hand, it set up a kind of some atmosphere as well, both on and off the pitch, which did not make for the nicest of games, but for a feisty game for sure. Not necessarily my type of game either, but maybe this is exactly what Genk needed as well now. Getting that European qualification after too much time, and then scoring in the final minutes as well. Having that feeling of the referee against you. And like bouncing back in front of a full stadium, almost sold out, or even completely sold out stadium. That might be just the fire that was needed. Of course, it's only a point, but also it's the first home goal actually that they scored in the league this season. That it had to come in the 97th minute, I believe, after already having played around 250 minutes in that full week, and also being the first goal in that week actually as well that did not come from a penalty spot. That was quite remarkable and quite it gave a good vibe. After all, I guess you could say this is, of course, still a hope from my side and from other Genk fan sides as well. I guess that this was indeed like a game. You don't get the 3 points, but it could be crucial for binding with the binding with the fans again, and getting them back on their sides because the start has been missed in the league. No need to sugarcoat that, but it could have been worse as well. Other top teams are still in the neighborhood as well. It's not that they're so far behind, so there's still time to pick it up. It's not going to be easy. The next game is already away at Union, I believe, and there's another away game against Club Brugge with the home game against Fiorentina, I believe, as well. somewhere. So there's this busy and then difficult month of September coming fixture-wise, but at least the main thing for me actually was more the way they played. There were still it still could be better, of course, and it's of course, obviously, if you're playing again with a man down, it is going to be difficult to create a lot, but nonetheless, they actually performed really well against a side that was at least full in confidence because of the 4 wins in a row that they had before this game. And I also feel like only an 18-year-old would have gotten these 2 yellow cards. A bit like El Canus had last season against Mechelen as well, I guess, where I also did not see. If they do things consistently, I can maybe get it. But on the other hand, that first one, that might be a warning, maybe, but nothing else. The second one I can get, that you can give, but then summing them up and being so quick about that decision as well. Yeah, it felt a bit weird, but it didn't matter in the end for the way the game was going. Yeah, Anderlecht, on the other hand, so they did not get that 5th win in a row, even though it looked like that. Vertonghen did not make any friends in Genk, and also in like based on the media, at least not in the Belgian media, in the footballing world in general, I suppose, as well. But also, their level was actually really a bit worrying, I guess, especially against Denman. It's not the easiest thing to do. We all know that. Genk is one of the teams that has seen that in the past few seasons a lot as well themselves. It's not always easy, but that's still different than really being dominated as in the first half. Second half, like I was fearing, there was a bit of a drop off. The game was more even, but without creating much from Anderlecht's side as well. Yeah, it was very frustrating to see Amuzu scoring after like indeed 2 touches, and with it was just it was a screamer. Just like a thing he actually never does. Let's hope for Anderlecht that he does it with that he can do it a bit more often as well. But that was a really good goal. But and then I really felt there's now probably it really is broken. This game's we can't blame the Genk players for that. But after so many minutes, I think in that 4 days, packed in those 4 days, getting down to 10 men, being behind, being brave, but then coming behind, getting behind. That's that I felt that was a drop too much. There was one big chance for Vasquez as well, where Van der Voort had a brilliant save. But then you would think Anderlecht could pull it over the line. But that was they didn't count on Munoz, I guess, as well. That in the 95th minute, after having played all the other minutes, one of the few players, I believe, that was still on the pitch from Genk side as well, that played the full games in this time span, getting the ball back, recuperating it, and then starting the attack. And then, with the cross, maybe there's a bit of luck. I think it was a bit of a blind cross, but nonetheless, being able to get it there, to the back post where Tolo really had only to nod it in. That was a brilliant feeling for everyone involved as well, for many reasons that I already talked a lot about here as well, I guess. And I agree with Galarza being really good in this game, and you could also see that Heinen being back up from injury, that might have hurt Genk as well a bit more than you would expect in the past month as well. So that's another plus for Genk, of course, that they are back.
Well, the referee in question in this game was, of course, Bram van Driesch, and we were kind of aware when this game was kind of ongoing that it was getting a bit card happy, and I had a quick look during the game at some of Bram van Driesch's numbers, and Bram's average yellow card rate across about 140, I think, something-ish Pro League games is about 4.5 yellows. He comes in with this game and there are 9 yellows, including the red cards. So, he more than doubled his own card average, which I think probably tells us 2 things. either it was a particularly vicious game, which I don't think it was really. It was feisty as it should be with these two big teams, or Bram probably didn't have the greatest game in the world and arguably lost control over it. I'll let you listeners decide over which one you think it is. But that was quite interesting to me, and I just had to go and check it because Joris was, when the first yellow card came out. In fact, I think it was even before Bonsuba's red, the second one. Joris was like, "Whoa, this is way too early," and it just there was a pattern getting set that wasn't good. The other thing that was interesting about this game was Genk's director of football, Dimitri de Conde, immediately making or trying to make contact with Jan Vertonghen after the game to confront him around the circumstances that led to the red card. They had a little confrontation at the end of the game that I thought was kind of quite interesting as well. But yeah, you guys have covered the actual game itself really nicely.
Yeah, definitely a feisty one. Looking forward to the return fixture of that later in the year. Final game of the weekend, as I said, I switched over to this one a little bit too early by the look of it, was Charleroi against St. Truden. Once again, Finkball on full display. Fatih Kaya was dropped to the bench. Giselle Barnes was given the striking start for St. Truden, but it was kind of the same old story. Ito was fantastic in this. He just, kept finding all the space, and their kind of playing at the back was so reliant on him just kind of dropping in and out of positions to pick up the ball. He looked really, really good. Charleroi, they looked all right. They started reasonably well quite early, forcing a couple of decent saves from Suzuki, a couple where they really, really should have done better and should have found the back of the net. St. Truden thought they should have had a penalty in the second half when Eric Bocat is running down the wing, cuts inside of Damien Mark, who probably handballs it, and then that head, I don't know how to describe it, but as he's on the floor, kind of like leans over to try and make sure Bocat can't run any further. But it might have been on the edge of the box, so maybe they kind of got away with it. But Charleroi then went down the other end and took the lead. Ode de Bag with a nice finish from a cross from, I can't remember, Gelge. Really nice cross from him. De Bag, put it into the back of the net to make it 1-0. However, St. Truden were then finally given a penalty when I think this time it was Mark just absolutely booted, might have been Delorg or Stoikers, one of those guys, like really nice play on the edge of the box from St. Truden. One of those young midfielders picks it up, he runs in and Mark just absolutely boots him. Referee doesn't give it initially again. I was like, what is going on? That's like such an obvious penalty. They finally go to VAR and it was obvious it was going to get overturned and be given. Koita steps up, smashes it in. I think I said to you guys this might go into Rose Ed, and I was really anticipating it might, because I knew he was just going to leather it, but he leathered it into the back of the net pass to have coffee. Dying minutes of this one, and St. Truden think they get another penalty when there's a foul really close on the edge of the box. Referee initially gives a penalty. VAR overturns it to be just outside the box. From the resulting free kick, Charleroi are then win the ball back because it's a terrible free kick from them. And poor Fedek Ananu, he's come on just recovering from an injury, comes on, and the ball's picked up by De Bag, who takes such a heavy touch, and you can literally see Ananu. It's just like, he's like, should I go or should I hold back? Should I go? Should I hold back? Because the touch is so bad. He's obviously only got a second to make the decision. Decides to go. De Bag puts it past him, and he's like, he's last man on the halfway line. Does what he has to do for the team, which is just completely take him out. Gets himself straight red card sent off. Which, I mean, it was an obvious red card, but he just kind of had to do it. And that's basically how this one finished. It finishes 1-1. St. Truden still can't score, but they can still play lovely football. Charleroi don't play as nice football, just about scored in this one, but they did have a couple more chances. Suzuki made a couple of decent saves, but his passing out from the back is a little bit suspect, so that's definitely one thing to watch, and I think he's going to get pressed a lot in this league once people work that out. St. Truden might be signing Benito Rahman. That's one that they're kind of pursuing at the moment. That might, by the time this episode comes out, that might be official. It might not have happened. It's kind of, I think it's 50-50, maybe 75-25, who knows at the moment. But I think, guys, he could make a difference to this side. Yes, he's not the best finisher in the world, but he's better than what they've got at the moment. And I think put him in there. And if I'm him, I'm looking at it and thinking I could score a fair amount of goals with this side. But 1-1 was probably a fair result in the end. Even it kind of all really exploded into life in terms of goals and action in the last 12 or so minutes.
Yeah, just on Rahman, actually, I think, I can understand why his preference is for St Truden as opposed to Kortrijk, who were interested, because St Truden have been one of the best sides to watch in terms of the quality of their football so far this season. And I think he's looking at that and going, do you know what, I'm going to get chances playing in that side, and that's what I want, obviously. So that makes complete sense. And I think Anderlecht are now kind of, leaning towards St Truden because he's indicated that's his preference, and obviously they want him out the door, to be blunt. So, they're going to try and accommodate that. That's what seems to be happening this evening. This game actually featured what for me was kind of moment of the weekend, and that was just after the final whistle. Charleroi owner and managing director Mehdi Bayat decided to come onto the pitch, gather the players and the coaches together, and give them a motivational pep talk in front of the cameras. So, of course, this is all filmed, and, Mehdi's aware of this, wants the world to see it, of course. The entire playing staff, the coaches are there in a huddle, and, he's talking about continuing to work hard and things will change, and believing in the players now. He doesn't want the players to moan and to kind of keep going despite the sluggish start and stuff. And I was watching this, and I was amazed on one hand that he decided to do it in the first place, because owners giving talks like that are a bit of a no-no, to be honest. Even if they are done in private in a dressing room, they are frowned upon for very obvious reasons. It's entirely different, I think, if someone like that comes in private and informally says, we're right behind you, lads. It's entirely different when the owner behaves as if they are the T1, and then it goes to another level again, into the realms of just bizarreness to me when he deliberately chooses to do it in front of the cameras where the entire thing is picked up. The really interesting thing was actually Felix Mazu's face. He looked particularly annoyed, I thought. He looked like he was sitting through a bit of a funeral mass, actually, more than anything else, which kind of told me he was pretty unhappy with that. So I thought, there were a number of cardinal rules there that Mehdi Bayat and lines that he stepped over, which seemed to have been glossed over in the media this week. But that was my moment of the weekend, because I thought that was pretty wild stuff. I don't know what you guys made of it.
Yeah, much like most of this game, I unfortunately did not pick up that much about it, as my Henk was playing as well for most of this game, of course. But Charleroi still winless, of course, as well, and they missed plenty of chances in this game as well. Doing that certainly does not help. Again, a bit like similar to their Walloon rival Standard. You need to score if you want to win, of course, as well. And that's 4 draws now after 6 games already. So that's also a decent amount there. And 1 or 2 goals can make a difference in that, you can see. And the same you can actually say for Sint-Truiden. They've been playing well, but now they're also winless in 4 after 2 wins, 1-0 wins against Kortrijk and Standard. So these are actually wins that are logical if you look at it now. And in the one game they've scored more than 1 goal away at Gent. They probably should have scored even more as well. I believe that's now 1 penalty goal from Koita, 1 shot from distance from Koita as well among those goals. So they don't have many goals that they play out, that they have play out from open play as well. Yeah, there was also a goal at least 1 goal on a set piece, on an additional set piece as well. Which, of course, in itself, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you should also add some played out as well amongst your goals to be a bit sustainable, I suppose. But yeah, so that are my few takes I have on this game. But I have to admit, I really did not see much of this. A 1-1 draw, and Charleroi still being one of those 4 teams without a win.
Yep, and now they get to enjoy the international break like the rest of us and mull over what they need to do to get that win. It's a strange situation, but at least with 4 of them in there, it's not like anyone's kind of getting too far ahead or too far behind at the moment. There still is plenty of time, we go to the Challenger Pro League. Scott, one side remains unbeaten and another side actually did something we quite like, which is they made their big announcement just before we started recording, so we can actually talk about it and not speculate about it.
Yep, Ben's talking about Zulte Waregem there. So thanks to the comms team at Zulte for confirming the big news this evening, which we'll bring up in a second. We've reached match day 4 in the Challenger Pro League. So just to round up the scores from this past weekend, Lommel maintained, as Ben was saying, their 100% record, winning 4 out of 4. They won 2-1 at Liège, a fixture that we took in actually last October when we were in Belgium. Club Next played out a 2-2 draw with Patro Eisden, who picked up Steph Peters a few days ago. Bit of a coup for them. Really good player, got lots to offer. Bit of a surprise that he's gone to Patro, but he's chosen to go there. They've signed him on a 4-year deal. Beveren managed to get their first win of the season. They won 2-0 at home against SL16. Denza picked up 3 points, beating RFC Liège 3-1 at home. Beerschot won 2-1 against Frank-Baran. In a game that I saw a bit of that game actually, and one of the things that struck me about it kind of quickly, guys, was how physical Frank-Baran are. A lot of big boys in that side. They're going to be quite a difficult side to play against, I think, from what I've seen of them so far. Oostend not only managed to score their first goal of the season, but they picked up their first point. They got a 1-1 draw at home against Serang. Anderlecht Futures drew 1-1 with Young Genk, and Zulte Waregem drew 1 apiece with Dender. The big news, as Ben was alluding to, was confirmed this evening. Zulte Waregem have decided to remove Frederick Dollander as T1, although he will be staying at the club. And they've decided to bring in Vincent Everard, who everyone will remember, who was up until very recently Molenbeek's T1. So Zulte Waregem, I think, look like the first side this season to be hitting the panic button, guys.
But it might be a good time with the international break coming, of course, as well. If you want to hit the button, I always feel like this would be a moment, even though this is really early in the season, of course. I would have expected it rather at the next international break, maybe. But nonetheless, they get a manager that knows how to win this league, of course.
Yeah, it's such an interesting appointment. I mean, news of this only kind of broke late this afternoon today, and it took a couple of hours for it to be kind of confirmed. Just a very interesting story on lots of levels, which we'll hear a little bit more about, I think. So in terms of the big picture, as Ben was saying, Lommel stay top. They're maintaining their 100% record. Oostend are still bottom, but obviously they've picked up their first points and scored their first goal, as I was saying. And another little bit of news that was confirmed this evening, Beveren have signed 21-year-old Georgian attacking midfielder Yorgi Moist Shrapashvili. And yes, I have been practicing that. What a brilliant surname that is. And he's come in from Dynamo Tbilisi.
I was going to say, easy for you to say that one. Liège have also made a couple of signs, haven't they? They've signed Stan van Dessel, and Victor Boon is joining from Union. So they continue to just kind of pick up these fringe Pro League players. So I think those two should be some decent signings as well. Yeah, I think that probably just about does it for this week. We will discuss in more detail the European groups and what we think about those, but everyone's in to a competition in some form or other. Antwerp obviously into the Champions League, where they've got Barcelona, Porto and Shakhtar Donetsk. So a nice tasty group for them. Union Saint-Gilloise, they're going to get the McAllister derby. They got Liverpool, Lask and Toulouse. So we'll get to see Aaron Donham again. Into the Conference League we go. Gent got a very nice draw. They should be really, really happy with what they got. They got Radovik from Iceland, Maccabi Tel Aviv and Zorya Luhansk from Ukraine. Club Brugge got, I think, one of the tougher ones in Besiktas, Bodo Glimt, who are very, very good at home. And then Lugano, who we saw in qualification against Union. And then Genk got, a pretty kind of mid one. I guess Fiorentina, obviously the stand-up. Ferencváros, not been great during qualification themselves, but we'll see what they kind of turn up at in the group stages. And then Kukariki as well. in their group, so another kind of team we haven't seen before that we get to see. But yeah, lots of European football to look forward to. Before the group stages, we'll obviously have a bigger chat about kind of what we think might happen, because who knows what might have happened by then in terms of players that have signed and stuff like that, and form that the sides are going into it in. But
And
yeah,
the one Belgian team I still don't really want to see are coming to my city as well. That's my main takeaway.
yeah, Joris gets to see Antwerp in his city. So that's like a nice little painful reminder of everything that happened last year. He just can't escape it as much as he wants to try. But yeah, that basically does it for this pre-international break podcast. We won't be doing one during the international break. We'll resume again after the next round of fixtures have come. So enjoy your international break if that's what you're into. If you're not into it, maybe, I don't know, find some other things to watch. There's always other sport on that you can indulge in before we get back to the domestic stuff. But Scott and Joris, as always, it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you.
It has indeed. Enjoy the international break as much as you can, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Likewise, and well, yeah, we'll be back sooner than you think.
Exactly. But as per usual, if you like what we do, please leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. You can also hit us up with any listener questions during this international break. Let us know if you want us to answer them during a podcast or just directly to you. We can do that. Yeah, as always, thank you very much for listening, and we'll speak to you soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.